What's up, good people? It's your pal Terry Bean. We're back with another fun and exciting episode of Business Growth Time. With me, as always, is Janet F. Johnson, where today the F stands for Janet said an F word the other day. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it. It's actually Janet E. Johnson, but listen,
Uh,
man, I'm out
I've
of
had a
yeast.
lot to say the F word about lately, so
You have, which is perfectly fitting for this little episode where we're going to talk a little bit about checking our mental health, right? Because listen, what we're going through, what we're doing, what we're working on, what we're building all requires a proper mindset. And the only way you can keep that is if you keep checking in on yourself. So, hi, Janet
you are
E.
right.
Johnson, no
Hello,
F.
Terry. Here we are. We're trying to get back to our consistency with this podcast. We didn't record for like a few months there, and then
It
we'd
seemed like
randomly
it.
get on. Yeah, it was a while, but we've been doing this how long now? So I think I'm almost positive February might have been 8 years, or was it 7 years?
I don't remember if it was 15 or 14, but it's been a long time, right? I
Wow.
mean, well, let's put it with like Google Hangouts. Remember how we started there, and then we went
Blab.
over to Blab, and that was super fun and exciting. We thought that was going to be the end all be all, and then
Yes.
it just died on the vine like so quickly.
And are you involved in Clubhouse much lately, out of curiosity?
I have zero clubhousing experience at this point because they did the same thing most app companies do, came out with an Apple version before they came out with a Droid version, and by the time the Droid version hit, like it had peaked and like it's just a not even a slow crash to the ground, right? It seemed like it was an accelerated crash.
Super weird. Super weird. I just felt like it was a time suck, kind of like Blab. I
It
liked it.
was.
Reminded me a lot like that of that. And when I did jump on things, I was like, this is interesting, and you'll be able to listen to people that you normally couldn't, like, have like I remember getting on with some internet marketers, big names, and they were talking about their funnels in the back end and giving secrets that you don't usually hear, almost like a mastermind type thing. So it was
Yeah.
very cool, but you never knew when you'd get that. And so you had to jump on a lot of them in order to get there, and it just became too much time. And then for me to be, for us to then get, to the level of becoming, on stage and all that kind of stuff, we had to do so many, and you had to be consistent. And it's just a whole nother platform. And I just didn't, we've been through jumping on board on a lot of these things like
Sure.
Periscope and Google Plus, and so I just kind of held back on it and thought, let's see what happens. And look what happened. Some people are still on there, and I don't doubt Bonnie Frank is probably still doing very well there. You know.
Three-time guest Bonnie Frank. Three.
Hmm.
Wow. I think she's the only one that holds that title, by the way.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
that's a good
Mike
point.
O'Neill's been twice.
Okay.
Brenda Miller's been twice.
Yeah, we've had
I know.
quite a few twice, but yeah,
I,
that's a good point. That's very
I,
interesting.
I think
Huh.
Bonnie's the only three-timer. So, it's interesting. We're talking about mental health. You're talking about Clubhouse. You're talking about the time suck of Clubhouse. So would you say possibly to protect your mental health, you stop going on to Clubhouse?
Yeah, well, time is money too, and there's a lot. But could you make money doing Clubhouse? Blah blah blah. Yes, but yes, I think for mental health wise, yeah, what you spend your time doing is going to affect your mental health 100%. I mean, honestly, I mean, do you watch Ozark?
I do watch Ozark. It impacts my mental health.
Yes, thank you. It's like I watched Ozark, and then guess what I watched after that because I needed it. The Chosen.
The Chosen. What's The Chosen?
You don't know what The Chosen is?
Mm-mm.
It's the whole story of Jesus Christ. Very
Ah,
good. It's all about, him and putting the disciples together, and it's a mini series that's been very very popular, and it's very well done. But I was like, I needed God after watching Ozark.
yeah. It's a godless little show. Did you finish the first half of season four?
I have watched the entire thing in one day.
What do you mean the entire, like all of the seven episodes of season four, or you
Yeah,
mean? You
Yeah.
started season one in
No,
one. Okay,
I've
I'm with
watched all the old ones before. No, I watched it all in one day. I did a bunch of work on my computer and watched, and it was a Saturday and I had nothing going on, but it's freezing outside, so I binged the whole thing in one day.
you. Yeah, I can't wait to see how they bring out the second half of that season. That's crazy. Coming out this
Yep.
year.
Yep,
So
it's nutty. So, yep.
that's there's a lot of mental health issues in that show for sure.
Oh boy, yeah. And you could create some when you watch it too. So yeah, you so is it good for your mental health? Probably not, but you
So
know, so
there's something about our psyche that likes to compare ourselves with other people, right? So shows like Honey Boo Boo became really popular because we were happy we weren't that person, or my 600-pound life is, well, I'm fat but I'm not 600 pounds, right? So maybe I'm
it
crazy
could
but
be.
I'm not Darlene crazy is a thing, in all sincerity, I think Marty Bird might be one of the coolest characters ever.
He's so great. He's just always so serious. Like he doesn't flinch. The guy doesn't get angry ever. I mean, he does not flinch. Yeah, he's great. So yeah, it's an interesting show. So anyway, so
We
that's
just
kind of a
watched
good point on mental health, I think, for sure.
we just watched a movie with Jason Bateman and Adam Driver, the guy that played Kylo Ren, last
Oh,
night. It was really, really good. I think it was called Why I Had to Leave.
oh,
And yeah, it was great. Well worth. Just if that might not be the name. So Jason Bateman, Adam Driver. I can't imagine they're in too many movies together. But yeah, really, really good.
yeah,
What? So, all right.
interesting.
Well, so let's talk a little bit. You said that, last week Tony Robbins did a 2 hour a day, 5 day program kind of on this topic, right? Because I've seen the reels and the promos for him talking about how are you? That's probably the most loaded question that we could ever hear. I mean, we're 2 years into this pandemic. It's February 2022, and I mean, things didn't really shut down until March of 20, but we knew the pandemic was a thing at this point. Um, wow. I mean,
Yeah, I
does
was
it?
actually right now. I was in San Francisco speaking 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was my last trip for a long time. I've gone somewhere since then, Florida last year, and it was my last trip for a really long time and last speaking gig I think I've ever done traveling in 2 whole years. That's crazy. I was
Jeez.
speaking. You were too a lot. And then boom, gone.
It just went away, right? And so, it's interesting. Our identity, right? Like identity as a human being is often tied to the work we do. And so in my mind, in my heart, in my gut, I was a speaker. And there was no speaking, right? And I used to joke, I'm like, yeah, you could speak at virtual events, but the word virtual, literal Greek translation is pay the speaker 20% of what they'd normally make. That's
Oh
what
yeah.
that's what that's
If
what
you
the
even
word
get paid at
virtual
all.
that's
Yeah.
what virtual meant, right?
Yeah.
Like the vacuum cleaner sound to the bank account was crazy. The vacuum cleaner sound to how people felt about themselves and what they were doing was crazy. And I think it explains why a show like Tiger King can all of a sudden like captivate people, because we needed something that was so far out of the norm to feel normal. It's
Yeah.
a weird thing. It's a
Yeah,
weird
it's a
thing.
very, very weird thing. I do have to say I was very fortunate during that time. And but it's reflecting too. So honestly, I had spoke so much recent. I had just been to Egypt and then I came back and went to San Francisco. I turned down a thing in India that was supposed to be in January that year. Like I could have done boom, 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 boom. And I had got almost overwhelmed with the speaking. And fortunately for me, that wasn't my business. My business was my agency and my business. So in reality, in retrospect, looking back, I have done better in my business since stopping running around speaking.
That's
But
interesting.
there are people that, like yourself or other people, like I look at Brian Fanzo. Brian Fanzo, you know who that is? Yep.
Sure.
And a couple others that their whole identity, their whole business was speaking. And I went, wow, like, what are they going to do? And I noticed one guy started an e-commerce store for masks right away. And he did very well with that. And then I know Brian Fanzo's now like really into the crypto world.
Mhm.
So, they had to shift. So I think and you shifted. I mean, we all shifted some way, format or another. I mean, I think every single person, but when it comes to business, I do think every single person had no choice but to shift.
Had to, right? And
Mhm.
you had to pivot, you had to make moves, you had to do what you could. I kind of created the mantra, keep your head down, keep your chin up, and keep moving forward,
It's kind of hard to
right?
do. Then I get double chin.
That's it, right? Yeah, man. So somebody asked me, like, hey, I've been meaning to ask you, that seems physiologically
It
impossible. Head
does.
down, chin up. I'm like, it's metaphorical, dude. Settle down, right? Grind, do the things that you know you need to do. And maybe it doesn't have to be a grind at all, but stay focused on the shit that matters, right? And we have to get better at blocking out the noise.
Yeah.
I made a comment today on a Facebook post. I was talking about the Washington Redskins name change and why the Redskins is a derogatory term, and it was about scalping Indians, and the blood from the scalping made their skin red, and that's why they got the nickname Redskin, right? That's a horrible, horrible story, and it's a horrible name. And so good that they changed it. But the media has gone so far out of their way to sensationalize all these different aspects of our life. There was 4 days when Jim Harbaugh was going to be the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, right? And that was big news. He was going to leave University of Michigan, where I am, and go move to Minnesota, where Janet is. And that didn't even come close to happening. And Tom Brady's retiring, and then he didn't, and then he did, and it's like, what do we stop? Let news happen before we claim what's news.
That's
We
true.
had we had 14 to 16 inches of snow predicted, right? I think we have five, maybe five, right? Schools were closed on Tuesday afternoon for Wednesday and Thursday. We got 5 inches of snow.
And that's nothing in our worlds. Yeah.
Like, yeah. I don't live in Dallas, right?
Exactly.
If I lived there, maybe I would be like, holy crap, or Hawaii. Yeah, close the schools, man. This is Michigan. It's supposed to snow.
Let me
So
ask
it's
you a question, Terry. Do you watch the news? Like, is the news something? I'm guessing you don't. Yep, I don't either.
no, I
The
stopped
news
watching
I
that.
get is maybe in my news feed on Facebook.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I started telling people back in 07, 08, turn it off, right? Like
Oh,
stop watching this garbage, because
yep.
it was the first time I understood that there were, all these different news outlets owned by a very few slice of people. Literally 95% of the news media, right? Whether it's radio, whether it's TV, whether it's magazines, newspapers, they're owned by six companies. Six. Right. And I thought we had talked about maybe having antitrust laws in this country and not allowing monopolies like that. But come on, man. If that's not just so gangster, I don't know what is. But it's really easy to
Exactly.
control the narrative and control the story. And the other thing that has to happen, this is why I brought the news up in the first place, we have to go back to paying for it, right? If news is incentivized by advertisers, means they're incentivized by getting clicks. And if they're incentivized by getting clicks, that means that they have to be in a hurry to put something out. And if they're in a hurry to put something out, they're not doing their due diligence. They're not fact checking. Hell, half the time you read articles and you're like, this isn't even spelled right? How many typos do you see online now? And it's because of that rush to be first, and that's
Got
not
it.
what it should be, right? So if we're the source of income for them, then we're going to hold them to a higher standard, because as of now, we can't hold them to anything.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point. Yeah, and the one thing is, the one thing back one of my mentors that even started me on the entrepreneur world was Bill Gould, and he isn't known anymore because he got stopped from doing his trainings. He was network marketing, but he always said that the news just, we can't do anything to change it. Like, it's just putting all this junk in our head. And really, what power do we have over a shooting that happened? I mean, yes, it's good to be aware. Okay, I get that. Like, we can be aware of it, but to know all the nitty gritty details and to, just consume it. Like, we had a shooting here, school shooting, just happened to be related to some things racially. So it's not good, and just happened 2 days ago in Richfield.
Oh, wow.
But like I have my one friend's news, very, very news, like, and she's like, oh, I can't wait to hear who was it that got shot and who was it that, and I'm like, can't wait to hear. I could care less. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. It's very sad. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like, I don't need to know these nitty gritty details. Because what it's probably going to end up doing is honestly probably more riots and stuff here. Who knows? But a little too cold here. At least it's too cold right now for that because it's minus degrees. So maybe we'll hold off on it. But
We're gonna plan a riot 6 months from now
exactly.
in
Well, if
support
they're
of this.
smart, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
But I mean, it just is putting the wrong things in your head. And if you can constantly do that, it's just mentally, what's that really going to do for you? So that's why I'm embracing this Tony Robbins. Well, first off, I've had a lot of things Terry knows happen in my life recently. And I don't mind separation, moving, completely moved. My boys are with me. What was the other thing? 2 animals being put down, dog of 15 years,
2.
cat of 15 years within 2 weeks of each other. And COVID all of December on top of it. So we've had just a lot of different things going on. And mentally, I was just like, it's been hard, to be honest. It's been hard. And sometimes you have to if you start getting more negative, you have to bring yourself back to why am I not happy? And I think when I've been watching this Tony Robbins thing, one of the things that, because going through divorce sucks. I mean, everybody says that, it's like, it's one of the hardest times of your life, and it's not a positive thing whatsoever, and so am I happy-go-lucky, running around being all happy, chipper, no, I mean, mentally, I'm not happy, like I can't say I'm not happy, but it's just like, I'm not in my full happy place that I would normally be. But it's all in your mental state. And one of the things, like Tony brought up, no matter what happens to you in life, it's all in your mental. Like, what are you doing, to make yourself better? I mean, I've been doing a lot of God soul searching too. I'm now making sure I watch church every single week and, just doing some of that. But then, just putting the positivity in your head and quit putting the news in your head.
I have said forever, right? It's got nothing to do with what happens. It all has to do with how we respond to it. There's a Chinese proverb that says, knock down 7 times, get up 8, right? And that's all we can do. It's amazing to me how many people will just wallow in what happened. And maybe I haven't had tragic enough loss. Okay, maybe. Um, I used to, when people would tell me that someone died, I would always remind them of this poem that I read back in 1999 called Zen Pantheism. And in the poem, they talked about the construct of duality, right? That, dark night, light, light, dark, whatever, right? There's always an opposite. And they said, what most people don't understand is that death is not the opposite of life. Death is the opposite of birth. It's just life seen from the other side. And that thought always gave me tremendous solace. And normally when I shared it with people, they were like, oh my God, thank you. That really helped, right? So it wasn't just mine. But I always wondered what would happen, like when somebody close to me died. How would I feel about it? And so when my dad passed away in 2013, I got to actually apply that. And yeah, it seemed to work pretty well, man. It's a much better way to look at things. And all of that leads to is this idea that we're going to go through this, right? It's turbulent. Life is, I told my wife the other day, life's nothing but a series of kicks in the nuts and how you respond to them. She did not agree with that.
Oh.
I believe it's because she
Well, for
doesn't have
women, it's
nuts.
not kicks in the nuts.
It's
So,
because she doesn't
so
have,
of course she didn't agree with it.
she doesn't have nuts. So, but she's, what we need is a reset, right? What's the mindset you want to have? And then how do you trigger to get back to that, even if just for a short period of time, to do the thing you need to do, and then you can go back to sulking in the way you were, right? But we need that, we call them mental states, right? We need that mental state activation to be where we perform really, really well. And you need to have a trigger that can snap you into that state right now,
Hmm.
regardless of what you're doing.
Okay,
And you
well,
can
let's talk
go
about
back.
what do you think that trigger could be?
I think a lot of times it's a memory, right? And so something that if we hang on to like a favorite trip or a favorite moment in time or an activity, I took a helicopter ride through Kauai, and I remember we were in kind of the mountainous area, and we came up out of the backside of the mountains, and then boom, there's the Pacific, right? And if you go look at Nepali coast online, the images are some of the most stunning you'll ever see. It's this jagged green mountainous area, beach, and then Hawaii blue sea, right? And that kind of thing can take
Yes.
you right there.
Yeah.
And another
Tony
thing,
Robbins teaches that type of thing too. Yep, for
does
sure.
he? Sure. And
Mhm.
as well he should. He probably teaches a thing called like a power move, right? And so you have like a physical pose. Mine was always, yeah, like that,
Oh
right?
yeah, he does a lot of that kind of thing too. Yep, yep.
Whatever,
Just
whatever it
even
can be.
just, and he wants you to yell all the time, but I lose my voice too much. So I'm like, I can't, and he's like, yell as loud as you can, I'm like, I can't, but that's kind of yeah. And just even movement can help,
So,
one of the things I've been doing, no matter what, every day, I mean, maybe 6 days a week, let's give it, but I exercise. I'm more fit than I've ever been probably at the moment. Now, granted, I had COVID and I had to take that December off, but I was so getting in the fit. And it's hard in Minnesota. So I can't
sure.
wait until spring hits because then I'll be able to use my street strider here, and then
Is it striding yet? Is it stride ready?
no, that's the box with the stand. We did get the stand. So just FYI. So we're going
Ooh.
to get that hopefully set up in the next week or so. But
It's like a Street Strider update. We'll have to have another one because we talked about it in the Roger Burnett episode too.
the
So
street strider, I should. When this is set up, you'll be able to see me do it.
that's awesome. We'll have a Street Strider show. I've got a CrossFit elliptical 4 feet away from me.
Oh,
That'll
there
do
you
our
go.
whole
We'll have
show.
an exercise show, picking up the mindset. But I do think movement, exercise. I mean, and then the other thing is don't bury it. Don't bury. The one thing I will say is I quit drinking. I quit drinking. Now I have a glass of wine here and there, but I mean, compared to what I did before, but did not drink for the first 4 months of this separation,
Yeah, I
and
know you had a goal of 100 days and you
I
sounds
did
like you
it.
beat that.
Yep, I did it over that. Yep. And then I finally went, it's time to have a glass of wine. Cause there are alcoholics, I get it. And there's problem, but I know I'm not, I can have one and stop for a whole week. It doesn't bother me. So I did it for my own purposes, but do you know when things come up and problems arise, what comes to my mind? A glass of wine would be, when you're stressed out, you automatically, a lot of people will go to, the chemical abuse. And, there's been a few times where I've gone, oh my gosh, a glass of wine would be great right now. And I like wine, like just the taste of it. But you know what I do sometimes? I'll put LaCroix in a wine glass and just drink my LaCroix instead. And then I get over it and I move on.
That's
So,
interesting. And that's such a key point, right? We have to have habits to replace the habits that we want to
yeah,
get rid of. You can't just quit something and not have something to replace it. My friend Jeff Clatterbaugh and I were talking about this in my training course the other day, about he had he was a cigar smoker, and every Wednesday he would go and smoke cigars, and that was just a thing. And he would smoke them other days too, but he had like a cigar meeting. And he said, I've now taken all the time I would spend smoking cigars and going to the gym. I'm down 34 pounds. You just think
Wow.
about what a simple and profound life change that is.
Taking this and turning it into this.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And if
I
you're not
love it.
visualizing, it's drinking versus lifting the weights, you know?
Lifted the weight. She pumped.
Yep.
Janice over there pumping the iron. She's
Yeah.
pre-street strider. I love
Well,
it.
yeah, street strider. Yeah, that's great for Jeff. That's really good. And it is replacing the habits. I think I have a friend that smokes too, and she's, like used to taking her dog out to go have her cigarette, but if you could replace that with something else, it's a lot of it's just habit, and you could replace it. Yeah. So
Okay.
don't turn to chemicals, turn to chemicals that are good for you, like exercise and, getting that heart rate up versus turn into that
We're
wine,
all
beer, whatever you guys, or pot or whatever it is.
we're all looking for that endorphin release, right?
Yeah.
And exercise is a great way to get that. I started a yoga practice again for the third time, so I'm excited to be
Interesting.
back
I
on
have
the
never been
mat.
able to embrace yoga, never in my life. It's not fast paced enough for me, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
It's the challenge for most people is they think it's a physical thing, and it's not. It's a mental and a spiritual
uh,
thing. And so yeah, it's definitely for a physical exercise. It's it probably a little lower for me than
builds
others.
strength. It
But
builds
oh yeah,
strength, but
so much.
not necessarily the what do you, I can't even think of what it's
There's
called, but
some
aerobic
yoga.
activity. Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's not designed for that. There's some flow that you can actually get your heart rate going a little bit. I've got a yoga shred course that I wanted to start doing, and then I got out of shape, and I was like, well, I can't do yoga shred if I'm out of shape. So I'm trying to build up for that. I'll give you, maybe when we do the Street Strider update, I'll give you the yoga shred update
The exercise update. That's great.
if it's still
Great.
a thing. I
Good.
think this is really interesting. I think the one other thing that people need to do is they need to talk, right? They need to
Mhm.
be able to have a conversation with somebody or somebody's. And let me be very clear, you don't need to just talk, but you probably need to listen too.
Mhm.
And because
Mhm.
there are going to be a lot of people that, regardless of how bad your shit is, there are people who are worse off than you and are having a harder time than you are.
And you
And
got to
back
look
to
at the
the
things that are good. Like
oh, for
like for
sure.
me, I'm healthy as can be. I have my health. I mean, COVID sucked, but I have my health, and I made it through COVID just fine. And so I think look at, like you said, listening to them, but also, look and don't go, oh, well, they got it bad, so I'm good. You
You
don't know
people
that you want to do
suck. I rule.
that. Exactly. But I mean, look at being grateful for what you do have, I guess is kind of my point right there.
Super important, right?
Mhm.
Gratitude, if nothing else, start with the fact that your eyes opened, that you got out of bed, that whatever the case may be. There's so many things. And what I know about gratitude is the more you express, the more you'll have to be grateful for. It's a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool.
So let's get into the business aspect of this for the last like 5-ish minutes here.
Sure.
Let's talk about, you have a program that you bring this into. Is that correct?
I have a presentation. Yeah,
A presentation. Okay.
I wrote a presentation deck called The Five Pillars of a Life Well Lived. And I've delivered this talk 5 or 6 times. And the pillars are your relationships, right? And that starts with your relationship to self and then your relationship to others. And then it's your health, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and your financial health. And the mental health piece is so undervalued for people, right? And we've done such a crazy job odd term, in this country with what we did for mental health care. Remember, we used to have asylums. That was a normal thing. We used to put people where they could get help. And I don't mean to call it an asylum, but there were mental health clinics all over the place. And it's just now starting to pop back up. Pharmaceutical industry has done a number on this country, and we don't talk about it enough. Yeah, Janet's like, crap, we're gonna have to pull this off. can't even air this one now. Janet did
don't
say
want to know what I think about that, but yeah.
So it's
it doesn't have this, so
she's pointing to her cold shoulders, folks.
Yeah.
Mental health is a really, really powerful thing that we need to stay focused on because it's tied to our mindset, and our mindset directs everything,
You're right.
like all of the things.
Yeah.
So,
and your business, how it performs, for sure.
And one of the things that business professionals, we as an entrepreneur, I'm not wearing a hat now, but I normally am wearing about 17 of them. And so one thing we can do is figure out what we should be doing and where we are strong and play in our lane, and then figure out how to outsource all the other stuff. And you're a perfect partner for people in that respect, because lots of folks running ads and spending money and time trying to figure out the ad manager platform on Facebook and Instagram, and they could get all that time back and pay you a little bit of the dollars to not have to have that stress too.
Yeah, there's both sides of it. Like, I do the coaching on purpose because I think people should be aware of what's going on with it if they're running ads and spending money. It can be a gamble just handing an agency your money.
That makes sense.
I've seen some bad situations, and so that's why I coach. And one of the biggest things that people do say is that, ads, I mean, right now, Facebook and Instagram ads are still top dog with lead generation to a business. YouTube ads are probably a close second, and there's TikTok ads, there's other ads, but bottom line is it's still, if you know what you're doing. And so I do agree with you there. Mentally, you guys need to figure out what business owners need to figure out what they are good at and what they can outsource, and even, VAs can be, you could even have a VA that goes through coaching for ads or whatever, and they'd learn it. You know what I mean? So there's just a lot of things that you could do where you give up time and energy. Your time is money. Your time is money. So make sure that you're spending that time correctly.
And I appreciate what you said about the coaching piece, because uncertainty is one of the biggest drivers of doubt. If we don't know how to do something or what to do, or if something's going the way we wanted it to, that causes great stress too. So going through a program and knowing, hey, they're doing the things they're supposed to be doing, or they're not, I could see that being significant stress release.
I just listened to a podcast that talked about that. They highly recommend every single person runs their own ads before hiring an agency. But they can hire an agency down the road. But then when you start talking CPC, CTR, all these different terminologies, pixel, what they're talking about, and you understand the benchmarks you should be looking at and all that kind of stuff because you've done it yourself. So
I remember when I worked with Mike McClintock, we've had him on the show as well, talking about hiring a software developer. I said, yeah, we got to hire some people. I don't want to do this stuff. And he's like, that's just it. You can't hire them until you've actually done it, right? So you have to do the stuff before you bring the people in, because how will you know if they're doing it right? Oh, shit.
That's exactly it. Even
Good
all
point.
this podcasting stuff when we first started, I learned every piece of it. And then now I don't touch it. But I trained,
Now you've got Terry's role. Good.
Well, kind of. I do touch it, I guess. I do share things, but mainly we have our systems in place, so that we could do a whole show on processes, but have our systems in place to hand it over. So, but then once again, takes away the time invested so that we can go make sales or focus on the things that create the revenue.
That's exactly it.
Fully create the revenue. So I think that's all about mindset. And I think this was a good topic today, Terry. I think mental health has been, well, we've all been strained. We've all been strained in the last couple of years with our mental health. And we just, you know what? If all else fails, turn on Tony Robbins, I guess.
There you go. Right. He will get you fired up. Actually, I'll tell you what, if you haven't seen it, watch I'm Not Your Guru. It was I think it was a Netflix
Yes, it's
special.
so good. Yep, I
It
have
was
seen it.
really good. Really
Yep,
good. Really
yep,
enjoyed that.
yep.
So, well,
Shows a piece of what he's got going on. Yep, exactly.
this
Yep.
was awesome. Thank you for we were talking right before the show started what should we talk about, and this was like a last second audible, and it seemed good, right? So, and it felt good. So I'm glad we talked and listened about it. So good job on us. Where do they find the other episodes that are less somber and more businessy?
Oh, come on. We laughed. We joked about Street Strider. Businessgrowtime.com /blog. It's pretty easy. I mean, you can go to Business Growth Time and navigate there, obviously. We have all the past episodes, and then that's where there's information for you to find which platforms we're on pretty much anywhere. So if you're on iTunes, Business Growth Time, Stitcher, whatever it may be, Spotify, there's just so many out there now. It's hard to even name them all, but I believe we're on most at this point, and it's just Business Growth Time. Check it out. We have a lot of in-between shows as well. So that are really easy. They're nuggets. They're just nuggets. They're easy to consume. And that's our goal. You know, we're not going to do all of our podcasts aren't this long. So, you know, we do also teach about and have guests on and bring on great guests. And then Terry and I teach, he's the business networking king. And then I do all the social media side of things, not even social media anymore, really. It's more paid advertising. So bottom line is though, all the things you need for your marketing, those are the two spaces that work the best: referral, networking, and ads and social media. So
We
join
got you
us
covered.
again on the next show. Any last word, Terry?
I make it a point to do something for me every single day, right? Self-care is super duper important. And I will tell you that if you're not in the habit of putting yourself somewhere on the list, please get in the habit of doing so, right? The world needs your best you. You can't give what you don't have.
I like it. Does buying something on Amazon every day count for that? All right.
Retail therapy, as my wife calls it. Uh-huh.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Terry. Thanks, you guys. Have a good one.